In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace the fuel pump on a fuel pump sending unit that's located inside the gas tank on a Ford F-150. Location of the rear filler neck. This is the front filler neck door, and this is the rear filler neck door. So we're going to start back here, and we're going to take the gas cap off so we can easily access those 3 mounting screws. Set that aside. Now I have a 1/4 inch 7mm socket. Now that those 3 are out, we're going to raise it up and dismount it underneath. Now with an 8mm or 5/16 socket, we're going to take these clamps off. This one in the front holds the actual filler neck to the bracket that's mounted on the bed of the truck. And loosen it up just enough so it slides right off. Let's get it. And now I'm going to take the clamp off that holds it to the rubber heart. So normally I would use the 8mm or a 5/16 or flathead, so you can try that. Mine is so rotted, so I got a pair of locking pliers, needle nose, just to see if I can spin the head enough to get it to start coming off, and it's working. There we go. Now with a little hook, like a pick, I'm going to try to break the rubber hose off of the metal all the way around so that I can get a good motion on this. I'm going to just pry with a screwdriver, see if I can get some penetrating spray in there. And let's that way. We can see if we can get this to work a little bit easier. There we go. Here we go. Now I supported the gas tank or fuel tank, and I'm going to take the rotted bolts off holding these straps on. I could say what size they are, but it looks like aftermarket bolts have been used 100 times, but I'm going to be using a 13mm wrench or a 1/2 inch wrench and a 15mm socket with my air gun trying to get these to break free. There's 4 nuts and bolts all together. So now we have the fuel pump connector, which is located right here, this gray connector. And I'm just going to push down on the tab and see if I can pull it out. There it is. Okay. I'm going to lower the tank so I can access these fuel lines and vent line. So I'm going to take the hydraulic pressure off and lower this down a little bit. As I guide the hydraulic down, I'm going to just use a pry bar, make sure I can separate this from the frame area. There we go. It's a little bit at a time. All right, now we have access to those lines. Here we have our 2 fuel lines. They have these safety clips on them. I just take a pocket screwdriver or a flathead screwdriver, pop this up like that. You can leave it on the line if you want, or take it off. I'm gonna undo both of them. And now with our fuel line tool, they look like this because they're gonna go up inside and unlock the little locking fingers that go in there. I'm going to get a pair of pliers to twist that line. There we go. There's one. Here's the second one. Okay, here it comes. There we go. Take our tool off. Now we have this vent hose. Cut this little wire tie off. Set that aside. Then I'm going to disconnect that hose from that rusted tube. All right. Now I'm going to lower the jack and just hold on to the tank, guide it down. There we go. Let's level it out a little bit. Let's just bring it all the way down. Still has fuel in it, so we have to be careful with that. All right, before we clean this area up to make sure no dirt gets in that tank, because we're going to reuse the gas, we're going to take the, I'm just going to plug that hole up a little bit, and I'm going to take my air, well, get that out of there. Not like we're going to prevent any, we're going to get some in there because that ring is pretty rusted. So I like to use a brass punch and a hammer. And I'm going to look at the direction that this goes in. So clockwise is locking, so I need to go counterclockwise to unlock it. It's time to fold up. Go. That was in pretty bad shape. All right, good news is I can get some more of that rust out of there. All right, let's lift the fuel pump up. There it is. Let's get a bucket, let that drain a little bit, and we can move on. Now I got my basin pan here. I'm going to lift this pump up, take it out of the tank, get past that pickup screen. And bring it right over here and let it do its thing in there. So you have two mounting screws for this fuel level sensor. There's one there and one up here. They're a 1/4 inch socket or wrench. We'll take those right out. We're going to follow that wire right up. It's the yellow one, and it is connected right here. Just take a flathead screwdriver and push it off. Now I can take that wire right out. Okay, before I remove the pump, I'm going to take the cutters and I'm going to cut the wires because we have to splice the new wires onto them because they're soldered on the sending unit. Never go in the same spot because you don't want two connectors side by side. I'm going to bring this one down a little bit further and disconnect it there. Now I can take the wires out of the way. 1/4 inch socket. I have a pan because I might get some residual fuel out of this. So we're going to take the screws out for everything. So now that the fuel pump's unbolted, I'm just going to show you how to remove the sock because you will get a new sock if you need to apply it. Just take a flathead screwdriver and go back and forth on both sides and it pops right off. Now we have to separate the pump from the sending unit. As you can see, the cover comes off with these tabs all the way around. It might be easier to expose that, only because the sending unit has a lock tab on it. So the reason why it's so difficult to take the pump off, see that middle clip? That's closes in on like lock fingers right on that tube. So I'm going to use a pair of needle nose pliers and see if I can grab this, pop off. Well, there you have it. This clip actually stuck to the sending unit. So this we want to take off because it's part of the pump. So now the sending unit's set aside. You can take the old pump, throw it out. I recommend stripping the wires while the pump's all apart, easy to get to. We're just going to clear it so we can put a nice butt connector on there. Now I'm going to take the bag that comes with the pump and take the sock out, the seals that they supply. These are lock tabs for different types of fuel line than what we have here. That's what they were all for, but I'm going to use those two connectors, these and the seals. We'll save this for another time. Before I put the pump on, I'm going to put the new sock on. Just find it a little bit easier to manipulate it. So you're just going to push it right down. It has the same kind of lock tabs that the pump has with those little grab fingers. So now I'm going to line up the sending unit, those two holes in the front and one in the back, just like that. Let's get the pan out of the way. We don't need that anymore. I'm going to put one screw in to mount it, same 1/4 inch socket. Just snug it down. I'm going to strip these a little bit better. So now I'm going to check the length out of my wires. I don't want them to be too long, but if I can get away with just wrapping them, that's what I'm going to do. So those black and black go together. Take my crimper, I'm going to cut a little excess off here. Put the butt connector on. Line up the right crimp size and squeeze it. Do the same to the red wire. Cut the tip off there. Get it to the right length. Put the butt connector on. Hold it. Line up the crimper. Okay, now I'm ready to connect my red wire to the red wire and black wire to black wire. See if it's too long, which I don't like. Make sure you get all the wires in there. Shorten it up a little bit. There we go. Let's do the same for the black. There we go. Okay, now we can get our tools out of the way. Now our pump is assembled. I could put on the fuel level sensor. So the fuel level sensor, the wire is going to go underneath right there. And you've got a tab right there and a tab right there. They're going to line up with these little cutout dots. That wire is going to go underneath. Just like that. I'm going to mount it, put the mounting screw on the bottom, put the mounting screw up on the top here. There's only 2 for the level sensor. That's just an extra spot. 1/4-inch socket. Let's start it. Try not to put too much pressure down on the pump with this level hitting something. You don't want to bend that rod. Making sure that wire is free and out of the way. I'm going to take that level sensor wire, bring it up. I'm going to run it through and around. I'm going to bring it right up to that connector. Push down on the spade until it clicks. Now we're ready to install the pump. So before we put our new pump in, we've got a new seal. I'll line that up, make sure it sits perfectly, not overlapping. Now we know that it sits in this direction. I'm going to guide my fuel level sensor in. Get that sock filter pickup screen. So now we can slide over the new retainer ring. Line it up the best we can. And sometimes I use a screwdriver just to push that rubber gasket back into its little seat. Try to get tapped down a little bit on all the corners here. There we go. I'll use my brass punch. Keeping an eye on all sections to make sure it doesn't compromise. Just going back and forth. So we got to get it over that last little lock tab. One more little love tab. There it is. We have to get this filler neck hose up over that frame. So the tank is empty. It's pretty light. So I'm going to see if I can just jack this up. Got that filler neck coming right through right there. I'm going to jack it up. There we go. Now I'm going to tilt it forward so that I can drop it again a little bit and get to the fuel pump lines. So now I'm going to take the vent hose, bring that right back over this top frame bar. I'm going to take my caps off, place those aside. Now I got my two fuel lines here. Smaller one is on the bottom, larger is right here on the top, so that's the blue one. So now I'm going to put the smaller of the two hoses on. You're going to hear it click. There it is. And then the larger one. Hear that click? Now I'm going to put the lock clips on, the safety locks. Larger side goes on the fuel side. The smaller one goes on the tank. Now we'll get the smaller one out. There we go. Put the fuel pump harness up over the top. Put this line over there. All right, now we are ready to put the tank up. All right, now that we have the gas lines hooked up, we have the connector come through. I'm just going to hook that vent line. Just going to spray some parts cleaner. Just gives it enough, and it doesn't have that petroleum base that eventually could break it down. There you go. I will take a plastic tie, and I'm going to tie all these back together. I want to make a good note here. This fuel pump actually comes with the other end, the harness end, the female connector. So if this is damaged or your wires are shaved, we have the connector comes with it. So if you don't need to, you don't have to splice it in, but if you need to, we actually send it with the pump. Let it click in, there we go. Now I'm going to put my bolts through, putting the two longer bolts in the front, dropping them through, and then I'm going to put two shorter ones in the back so I can put the strapping up. Just start the nut. There we go. I'll move it to the front. I'm going to put a washer on these and put the nut on. I'm going to repeat the same on the other side for the other gas strap. Okay, you want to make sure that these gas tank straps are in the channel, lined up with the ribs of the gas tank. So my bolts are a 12mm socket, 12mm wrench, but you can See what size you get. I'm not going to squish the tank. I don't want to crush it. I'm going to snug all 4 up and then adjust as I go. Let's let the jack down. So now I'm just going to put the 2 clamps on prior to putting that up in, a little bit easier. And then we'll just guide the filler neck hose into the gas tank hose. And we'll guide the filler neck up into the gas tank lid. I'm not going to tighten these clamps, not until I get the actual piece bolted up on the top, but I will guide them just like that. Now I'm just going to grab my filler neck, line up my bottom hole with that, just put the screw in, start by hand. I'm just going to snug it up. Line up the other 2 holes. Let's make sure the cap goes on. All right, now we can redo our clamps on the filler neck. Now with my 8mm socket or 5/16, I'm going to snug up the bracket clamp. That actually helped because it straightened the pipe out in the hose. And the same socket, tighten up the hose. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.